Robinson here.
And Chris Peach.
Yes. Money, Sex, and Kids. And here we are, another episode. And this one, specifically kids. And like we've always said, kids, well, we're learning. We're learning as we go because nobody gave us a Parenting 101 handbook. And if you have one, you should share the wealth and send it our way. No, I think parenting is trial by error in a lot of ways, right?
We just mess up over and over and over again, and that's how we learn. And obviously then we look for people who are doing really well with kids or appear doing well, and we just say, what are you doing? But it is the one thing in life that I don't think we'll ever master. It's always, I don't think we're going to master anything, but especially this one seems to be the hardest because the kids keep moving at ages and moving, and we're like always playing catch up. Like,
just when you think you've figured out one age, all of a sudden they move to another stage and your mind is boggled
I'm
again.
sure you guys can totally side with us on that one.
And right, and especially when it comes to boys and girls. But this is something that we talk about often, and mainly because we're seeing it so much more, especially in our son, Carter, who is 8. And he's just at that age that he's really starting to learn some life lessons. I mean, 8 years old, and it's really coming full throttle towards him. And specifically, we were talking the other day, like we want our kids to fail. And that's the reason why we did this episode. Why do we want our kids to fail? You're probably like, oh, you terrible people, you're negative. Why would you ever want your kid to be a failure? No, we don't want our kids to be a failure or failures. We want them to learn the feeling of failing.
Yeah, so I think there's so many opportunities at a young age to teach kids about failing. And the reason why is someday they're going to be like us. They're going to be our age. They're going to be your age. And what a shame it would be if they get to that age and they've never failed before. And so I know the people in our age group who are listening to this, we grew up in a lifetime where you could be the last one picked, off the fence for kickball, and it wasn't the end of the world, right? Or
you ran a turkey trot at school and not everybody got a ribbon because there still was a winner, a second place, and third place, and that was it. The other kids, they didn't win anything because they weren't the best.
So I feel like when we were growing up, winning and losing was part of life, and sometimes, no one ever said, you're a loser, but sometimes you would be the loser, right?
Oh, for sure, and I think we both experienced losing and failing at a really early age, and the difference between then and now is our parents didn't coddle us. They of course felt bad, and they didn't like to see us hurting and upset, but it wasn't let's coddle you, let's nurture you, so you never feel this ever again.
Yeah. And I'm not faulting parents that do that because we just said, we want our kids to fail, but deep down inside, we don't ever want kids to feel pain.
No.
But I think what we're learning as parents here, and what we're talking about today is I think they're supposed to feel pain.
I think so.
Kids need to feel some pain in life.
Exactly. And
I'm not talking about bend over, bam, bam, you're spanking.
No.
Time and place, but I'm saying in life,
internally,
maybe some internal pain, like, oh my goodness,
I don't want to feel like this again. How can I do something better or try a different way to maybe win the next time? And we just wrapped up fall sports here, and so this is really why we talk about these kind of things a lot. Usually it's over like a couple of glasses of wine late at night when we think we can solve the world's problems and our kids' problems. And our son played flag football and led by awesome coaches like saints. I could never coach like you.
I was one of the coaches, by the way.
Right. Yeah, I forgot he was.
Okay, I was actually one of the coaches. Every Friday night.
He's good. Well, I have always said you're a better person than me. You have more patience than me.
So as the coach and the dad on the team, I think it's just you expect, I should say this for me, is I expect, that if I'm coaching the team and my son's on the team, that we should be awesome, right? Like that's just my mentality. Like, we should win every game. We should be rock stars. And in the past, we've been fortunate. We've won the majority of the games, and things went well. This season was a totally different season. It was a very, very hard season, but it was also something that needed to happen. And I feel like the most growth, I know the most growth for Carter but also for myself too, was during the season, because I'll be honest with you, we were not very good this season, all right? And what I mean by that is we played 10 games and we won 3, and I think we scored maybe 4 to 5 touchdowns the entire season, and my son, the coach's son, scored a big fat 0, right? And so every single night that we would lose, the majority of them, we would come home, and my son would ask me this question. Carter would say, Dad, if we tried our hardest and we did everything you told us to do, then why didn't we win? And I thought this is a great time to teach our son that sometimes in life, you do everything you're supposed to do, and you don't come up a winner. And I think the problem is, maybe you guys agree with me or disagree with me here, that is what is being taught out there, is that everybody is a winner no matter what. And the truth is, in life, when you get a job or when you get married or whatever it might be, life's hard. And not everybody's always going to be a winner. We might feel like a winner, but when it comes down to it, we're not going to get the promotion. We're not going to get that girl that we set out to get. And sometimes when you don't want or you don't get what you want, that's the best thing that can happen to you.
It really is. And when you're in that moment, it doesn't feel like the best thing at all. And I can only imagine at 8, his little brain can't quite comprehend a future and how that would play to directly help him in the future to feel what he's feeling now and how he'll better be equipped to handle it down the road. But it's true. I mean, we both were talking about our early failures, and we've had a lot of failures. I really have. I've gotten passed up for job promotions. I've, like you said, done everything I was supposed to. I was there at the right time. I, stayed the course. I did these extra things, still didn't get the promotion. Eventually it happened. It took a while. But even as early on as high school, I remember all of my friends trying out for the pom team. And we all tried out, we practiced. I did the same thing they did. We all seemed that we put in the same effort. So we go, like 2 nights later, all of our parents drive us to the school, and they put a list out of the winner, the people that got picked. And I run up there with my girlfriends, we're 14 years old, 15 years old, and my name's not on the list, and all the other girls were on the list. And I mean, a 14, 15-year-old, it was like heartbreak. I was like, and the world just ended, crumbled down. God, take me now. My life is over. That's how I felt. But looking back, that feeling of failure and the embarrassment too in front of all of my friends made me stronger when I went to, try to promote for the jobs and try to get, a new position or whatever the case might be. And I was dismissed and I wasn't picked. It didn't feel as bad because I knew it wasn't the end. I knew something better would come along. And with the pom thing, something better did come along. I ended up making cheer. So there was always that. My mom knew that, but I didn't know that. And she let me continue to feel that because she knew that the next thing would be better.
And I think about this all the time. I remember God gave me a gift of wrestling. It was one of the things, I was a high school wrestler.
He's got the cauliflower ears to prove it.
I do, but it was one of the things that I didn't have to try as hard in anything else to be good at it.
Yeah.
It was just one of those God-given things. And so I remember, I think that also hurt me a little bit. I got a little cocky in high school, but I remember my senior year, I hadn't lost a match yet. And I felt like I was untouchable. And I got to the state finals for the 1st and 2nd place. And I wrestled a guy that, I felt like I should be able to beat this guy,
Yeah.
And we went into double overtime. That's the most overtimes you can go in wrestling. And I lost. And I lost 3-2 in double overtime. And I remember feeling this extreme level of pain because I just went through, lifetime of wrestling. It seems like that when you're 18. And now I'm never going to wrestle in high school again, and I'm never going to be a champion. Okay, that was my mindset. And I'll never forget my coach taking me to the side. And he said, looks me in the eyes. I'm crying my eyes out, and he looks at me and he says, Chris, this is the best thing that'll ever happen to you. I promise you that. And I remember being like, F you, dude. What are you talking about? This is the best thing that ever happened. He was spot on. Because so many times throughout life, I've been passed up for promotions a couple times, and it's because I wasn't ready for it. At the time I thought I was ready. There's been times in my life where things didn't go the way I wanted to. When we went broke, right? That wasn't a good moment in life. But having that moment that I could reflect back on, that I remember going through something as painful as losing in double overtime, my high school wrestling career being over, and looking back going, yeah, that was the best thing at that time that could happen to me because it prepared me for the harsh reality of life. And so obviously I'm a big reader and I like looking at stats and I find out all these things. But like Steve Jobs, he was basically removed from his position at Apple in 1985 because he wasn't good enough.
Yep.
Or Walt Disney was fired from his first job because he lacked creativity. You ever heard of Michael Jordan? He didn't make his basketball team his senior year because he wasn't good enough. We're talking about Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
You know, Elon Musk. I mean, this guy has failed over and over and over again. He almost died. And so I look at Oprah Winfrey. You know, her first television news anchor job in Baltimore, she was fired because she wasn't good enough.
Oprah Winfrey.
The Oprah. So I look at this and I'm like, all these people, there's all these successful stories in life.
The common denominator in all of those stories is failure.
They had to fail.
They had to fail.
So then why do we want to pull failure away from our kids?
Exactly. Because don't we all, I can honestly say, and I think you have to agree with it, we all want our kids to be successful, right? Like, our job as parents is to hopefully thrust them into some sort of success. Whatever success looks like on somebody else is all relative, but you want them to be something or do something, right? And so I think we forget that the stepping stone to get to success has to be failure, and not one failure, but multiple failures. And they can be, you know, different levels of failing, and they don't always have to be the hardest set of failing to make it count. I think those little moments all add up to something bigger, and it helps to instill their self-confidence and everything. But you know, I think the earlier they can learn that losing is inevitable. And I think with kids' sports, I think, and you know me, I've talked about this before, I'm not into sports. I like sports for what it teaches. I don't care if he ever goes on to love sport. Next year, if he wants to play the piano, I'm game for anything. Sports, though, I like what it teaches our kids. I don't care about the winning part. The losing part I actually enjoy more, because me, as like the looking ahead in me, sees that he's learning how to lose now, and that it's inevitable. He's going to continue to lose bits and pieces throughout his life.
And I'm just the opposite. I don't enjoy losing at all. I cannot stand losing.
He hates it.
It like just takes me and just, I can't stand losing at all. But I look back, and I'm sure you guys can look back and think about some of the hardest moments in life, right? Maybe it was something you lost, or maybe it was a divorce, or maybe you know, you lost your job, or something happened where it was a hard time. But look at where your life is right now. Now let me ask you this, knowing where your life is right now, would it have gotten there if you bypassed that painful moment in life, or if you succumb to that painful moment? And chances are it wasn't, right?
Right.
I mean, we have friends who, you know, they are happily married, but they had to go through a really rough divorce to find that perfect someone, right? You know, we've had people like myself who went through some horrible losses, but it allowed me to reflect and go, well, you know, this does suck, but it's not as bad as losing in double overtime in the state finals. I remember thinking that a lot. You know?
I mean, and that's the thing, is losing and tragedy and failing or any of that looks different in everybody's life, but it was given to you, it happened to you for a specific reason, instead of it being such a dismal thing, which it is when you're going through it. There's no questions about it. When you're in it, it sucks, it's awful. But when you get on the outside of it, you see, and then when you're, you know, finally at our age or even older, you see all those little footprints leading to where you are now, and those pieces of failure were huge in the puzzle, huge. I think too, the earlier on we can help build our kids' character and their integrity. I mean, that's not something that you just say, you need integrity, kid, you need good character. Well, one, they need to see it. And so I think through, especially through sports, but just through people in general in their life that have that. More is caught than taught. We say that all the time.
Yep.
And I think, though, through those moments of losing, it starts to build up the character that we hope that they will have down the road, the integrity that we hope will continue in their life.
Yeah, you're not born with character integrity, right? That is not something that's like you're just born with. I think you build that up over time.
Yep.
So instead of waiting until they're adults to start earning that and building that up, why not take these opportunities now? I mean, think about this. What's going to be easier for them? Losing a flag football game when they're 8?
Yeah.
Or getting dumped by their girlfriend that they thought they were going to marry when they're 16, right? I promise you, as we get older, the pain only gets worse, right? It
gets
escalates.
harder.
And so like we look at these kids, we're like, oh, they lost a game, who cares? And these kids are devastated because that's the highest level of pain they might see at that age, which is a good thing. It's okay. What we're saying is it's okay for our kids to fail. One of our models we always say is failure is necessary, quitting is not.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the part where we talk about character integrity, is not only do we want them to continue to fight through that pain and learn from it, we also want them to encourage the other people who are winning, right? To help them overcome that jealousy, that envy thing that we have in life. Like we have it in life right now.
I think that's a constant work every single day. But I think earlier on, if you learn the art which I really truly think it's an art and a process of celebrating others. It's hard. It's easy to cheer for the underdog, but try cheering for somebody doing better than you. That might be one of the hardest things to continue to master through your life, and that comes with, you know, learning your own level of self-confidence and things like that. But you celebrating them doing something well or winning, and at 8 years old, for an 8-year-old to be able to go to somebody else and be like, great game, or, you know, even his fellow teammates, like, you made the only touchdown that we had on the scoreboard, awesome job, instead of saying, well, how come he got the touchdown and I didn't, and looking at it as such a negative thing. The more they practice that, and the more that we're able to help push them towards that, I think, just helps them in the long run. I mean, being an adult and being able to give somebody a congratulatory high five, fist bump, hug, send them a great text message, something, you know, long and lovely that's heartfelt, that comes with practice, and that comes from living, you know, abundantly, and not worrying that by you saying that to them, it's going to take anything away from you, because it's not.
And you also need to let the unfair happen. And what I mean by that is, you know, there's those times, those situations, we've all heard them where, you know, like, hey, how'd your game go? And they said, we should have won, but the ref screwed us, right? Or we should have won, but this kid did something, or whatever it might be. And that's called life, right? Like, things happen. Like, you know, I should have got the job, but I got in an accident on the way to the job interview. I was late and I didn't get the job.
Yeah.
That's called unfair, right? But that's the way life works sometimes, and how we react to that, how we respond to that.
Yeah.
And so Carter, I know, has come home and he's like, Dad, you know, the other kids in school, they're undefeated, and, you know, we're losing all these games. That's not fair. And I look at him and I'm like, son, fair and equal are not the same thing, right? Like, life's a little unfair, and I'm sorry if you've been told that it's not unfair, because that's a poor job on me. Life sometimes is unfair. Like, things are going to happen that you aren't going to like, and you're going to call them unfair, and you're going to have to accept them. Swallow it, you know, suck it up, buttercup, right?
Yeah.
Be a big boy, you know, because, you know, someday he's going to get passed for that promotion, get, you know, dumped by that girl, whatever, not get picked for prom or for cheer, pom, or whatever it might be, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Life's unfair, right? That's not, we didn't make it up, God made it up.
I think, yeah, exactly. And you're not the deciding factor of what's fair and what's equal and what's not. But the only thing you can't control, because you can't, you can control your emotions and how you handle that and how you respond to that. And we all, even as adults, throw hissy fits and tantrums and things like that. But I think our goal as parents is, like, we don't want that 8-year-old to become a 28-year-old who throws a tantrum because he didn't get a job, or because
and lives in our basement.
And lives in our basement
with his girlfriend.
Yeah. That is not happening.
Yeah.
Pretty much that's the ultimate parent goal. Like, not have your 28-year-old with a girlfriend living in the basement. We don't have a basement.
And keeping the daughter off the pole.
And that too, yes, that's always number one. Okay, we're digressing.
So,
but lastly, I think with all of that, I think lastly is, every time they lose, they learn another level of respect, and a respect for themselves and how they handle themselves, respect for their coaches, who are helping to lead them in the right direction, even if they lose, winning or losing, right? The coach's job is to lead them in a positive direction and overcome all that, and respecting, you know, other team, you know, the winning team, the losing team, how you win. You know, that's just as important as how you lose, right? Are you winning, and are you that awful kid that celebrates in front of everybody and we won, or are you that kid that can, you know, humbly win and still say, you know, great effort out there, like, winning, losing, you did awesome out on the field.
Yep.
You know, we just don't want jerk kids. Ultimately, we don't want jerk kids, and I think that, like, them failing now is getting us closer to the goal of not having or not raising a jerk kid that becomes a jerk adult. Because once you're set in your ways as an adult, it's a lot harder to change.
It is. So I think the big takeaway here is, you know, our kids, we want them to be winners, right? And we're always going to try to make them feel like winners as parents. But there are going to be times in life where losing is inevitable, right? And you have to allow that. Allow your kids to fail. Allow them to lose. You know, don't let them fall flat on their face and be like, loser. You know, like, we're not saying that.
Don't do that.
Loser, loser, loser.
No.
We're not saying that. What we're saying is, you know, just
champion for them, but champion them in a way that is not just celebrating them only when they win. Help them to learn to embrace losing and be there for them. You are their safe zone, their support system, and all of that. But you know, we're the only ones leading their way, and I feel like if we continue to coddle them too much, we do such a disservice to them down the road.
Think about your mom and dad. Were they
No.
rushing in there, helping you every time you tripped and fall?
No.
Or were they like, oh, well, you live, you learn, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you'll be
I
fine.
feel like our generation growing up, like, you know, we got some bruises and, you know, skinned up our knees a little bit and,
Yeah.
you know, got beat up here and there. And look, we're here to talk about it. So why wouldn't we want our kids to grow from that? You know, just like anything, we go to the gym to feel pain so we could be healthier in the long run.
Yep.
And I think the same thing is, you know, let our kids grow up, let them feel a little bit of pain, right? And, you know, obviously we don't want them falling flat on their face, but maybe let them fall and help them up and say, hey, that was a tough break, but we'll get them next time type thing, you know? And I think if we're able to do this, I think we're gonna raise some really incredible kids who aren't gonna live in our basement with their girlfriends. Instead, they're gonna be rich, they're gonna have these beautiful homes, and instead of us going to a nursing home,
They're going to take care
they're
of us.
gonna take care of us and send us on vacations.
Yes.
Yes.
Cheers to learning how to get kids to take care of you.
Absolutely. We sucked. We're gonna edit that part out, that we sucked, okay? I'll edit that out.
We want you to start over then.